Make sure the door stays open, or that it is open at least when you leave it.
What was noted on the flyer this week, the second floor?
We're live.
Okay, just we're going to wait a minute for this person to come upstairs to get back to us. Well, just as I'm looking at my phone, because you're the reason God created an imperfect world, which is not a bad introduction. But let's start. Okay, so my name's Avi Kamman, and this is our weekly Chassidus year. In this particular evening, of which we are beginning a series, and Mitch asked me, other people asked me how long this series is. I have no idea how long this series is. As I myself started learning the content for this class, every once in a while, usually when we learn a mimer, there isn't time, or I feel that it's something that not everyone has the patience for to go through every single word of it. So I block off pieces of it. As I was learning this Sicha, every time I lifted up my pen to block off something, I said, no, I can't block that off. It's too nice. It's too important. It's too good. So we're going to start, and we'll just go however long we have, however far in the Sicha that we can in an hour. So a little preamble. This series of Chassidus years are Lila Nishmas Shlomo ben Moshe, Bundi, Freundlich. And at this time, before we really dig into the Sicha of the learning, it's an opportunity that we give for anybody on the call to come off mute, or anybody around the table to please give us names of people who need an Iloi Nishmas or Refuah Shlema.
Shulamit, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think her name is Shulamit Eliza, Alexa Silva, Bat Abraham, Neshama Shel Leah, and mother Simchatenu Bas Mordechai, her Neshama Shel Leah.
Amen.
I said Simchatenu Bas Mordechai first, and then Shulamit Eliza Bas Abraham, and then for a full Shlema. Oh yes, and also Nishmat Sheldon Silver is Neshama Shel Leah, and also a refuah shlema to Tamari and to Bas Chana.
Amen.
And
So, go ahead.
a refuah shlema for Elka Rachel Bas Eliza.
Amen.
Refuah Shlema Bunam Leib ben Etta, Refuah Shlema Zel Chaim ben Gittel, and Refuah Shlema Etta bat Tzippa.
Okay, Refuah Shlema for Charn Alexandra Bas Chana Esther. And sorry, there's one more name that I want to pull up.
While you're looking, Refuah Shlema for Isur Leib ben Chava Rivka.
Okay, and the other name was Mordechai ben Malka.
Okay. So the billing for this class and this series is called The Future is Now.
Are there more papers? Sorry.
Yeah, there are plenty of
Put them out here,
pages.
and then in case anybody else comes, so
Take them over here.
thank you.
On the one hand, that sounds like an interesting or weird thing to say, but on the other hand, one of the simple things that we learn in Chassidus is that the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is itself an indicator of past, present, and future altogether. Another way of putting it is that this future, which of course is the future of the Geulah Shlema, the fact that it's now
The door is open.
means that it has always been available. It's been available from the time that just before the Cheta Eitz Hadas, the world was in a, excuse me, that's going to be difficult. I will have to buzz people in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just before the Eitz Hadas, the world was in a perfect state. The fall, of course, is the fall, like Humpty Dumpty fell, and everything fell apart. And for the last 6,000 years, and into this close to the 7,000 years, we've been, we're picking up the pieces. What the Torah itself calls avodas habirurim, repairing, rectifying. And in Tavshin Nun Beis, the Rebbe announced that all the repairing is over. And he announced a few other things as well, that the moment of the Geulah is at hand, and all we have to do is open up our eyes. And he also announced that all the supernal lights which existed before this world was created, what we call the lights of Toihu, these lights were now available to come be packaged in such a way that we can live with godliness in front of our face. And Simon Jacobson, who was one of the Chayzrim of the Rebbe, speaks about the fact that when the Rebbe said these words, particularly that all the Birurim had been done, all the Chayzrim, this is a group of Chayzrim, headed by Yolkan, Olav Shalom, and others, he says they were astounded. They had no idea what to make of it. And so they wrote into the Rebbe, and they wrote into the Rebbe a question. Well, not exactly a question. Their style in writing into the Rebbe was when they didn't understand something that the Rebbe said, and they amongst themselves would chazer it, they would come up with a number of possibilities of what the Rebbe said. And so he wrote into the Rebbe, this group of Chayzrim wrote into the Rebbe, said, we understand what you said in one of two ways and we're not sure. When you said, Rebbe, that all the rectifications, all the repair had been done, and the time now is just to open up your eyes and see the Geulah unfolding. Did you say that as a blessing? That I'm giving a blessing that this should happen? Or did you give it as a fact that it is happening? And Simon says that the Rebbe crossed out the first, just crossed it out. This is not a blessing, this is a fact. So that left them in wonder. What did they actually mean? I mean, we know, number one, the Sitra Achra is still hanging out. You want to sit? Here, why don't you come back, come behind me.
Over here. That's me.
Yeah, come behind me. The Sitra Achra is hanging out. So clearly, and there are many other kind of obvious things in front of everybody's face that the forces of darkness are still around. So they asked him, if the Birurim have all been done, why is it that Moshiach hasn't arrived? And the Rebbe responded, now is not the time to go into this at length. And we are going to go into this at length through learning the Rebbe's words themselves. There have been lots of talk, lots of opinions about this, and we're going to start our Sichos tonight in understanding and learning what the Rebbe had to say about this. Now, you'll notice that this Sicha is a Yud-Tes Kislev. It's a Tesvav Tezayin Yud-Tes Kislev Sicha from Tafshin Nun Beis. And of course, we are in Adar. So you could say, well, we're supposed to be learning in Yonim de Yoima. They things that are apparent, equated with the time. So one of the things, please say two things about that. First of all, in the Megillah, the very last, second to last chapter in the Megillah, it says, "V'ayomim ahem niskorim v'nasim b'chol dor v'dor." That the words and all the events that went on in the Megillah are repeated in every generation, and in fact, they're repeated in every moment. We know that every moment we have to at least 2 times a day, and in Chassidus it says even every moment more, remember going out of Egypt. Why? Going out of Egypt had a certain day. But these inyanim are, as the Megillah tells us, and this becomes part of halacha, that everything that occurs in Torah is eternal. And what eternal means is not only that it lasts forever, but it's always, always present in every single moment. That's one thing. And the other thing, and we'll move on, is Adar itself is a acronym. I don't know if that's the right word. I'll tell you what it is. Maybe it's the wrong word. You take the word Adar, break it into Aleph, Dar. That the Aleph is settled, sitting, right? The Rebbe over and over again says that the time that we're in is a time when, this is a time when God's dwelling place in the lower world, the same lashon, Dar. So the Aleph is Dar. The Aleph itself lives down here. And what's the Aleph? The Rebbe has explained in other places, and I'm just going to have 3 different meanings of Aleph, and I'm just going to go into one of them, which is related to this Sicha. Aleph is spelled backward is Pella. Aleph Lamed Pei, Pei Lamed Aleph. So when you turn your view of things inside out, you see the wondrousness in everything. And with that, we'll start the Sicha. And I'm going to have to just say one more little introductory thing. This Sicha is not an easy Sicha. And you're going to have to use your heads. Now, would you like?
Yes.
I see, thank you. Okay? And we are, we will stay with the Sicha because, as I said, as I'm learning it, I'm not seeing any reason to skip. On the contrary, if we have I hope all of you have the Sicha in front of you. It's published in the WhatsApps and it's here on the screen. Okay, so let's begin. This was said on Shabbos. This Erev Shabbos, which begins, Shabbos of course begins on Erev Shabbos. So here we have, what is the time of Moshiach called? Hayom Shekula Shabbos.
Right.
And so the time that we're in before the Moshiach actually steps out and reveals that he is physically present is the time of Erev Shabbos. So this Maimer was said on Erev Shabbos. This Sicha was said on Erev Shabbos. And what do we do on Erev Shabbos? On Shabbos, we prepare the food for the Yom of Shabbos. So in these few words, the Rebbe is telling us, we're sitting here, prepared, ready to sit down to the Suda Shabbos, to Hayom Shekula Shabbos, to the day which is all Shabbos. Levi, take one. And it says further, the Chazal tell us, Misha Torah be'erev Shabbos, one who is occupied, and Torah means really strains oneself, works, be'erev Shabbos, yochel b'Shabbos. If you'll do the work, you'll come to see Moshiach. You'll come to Hayom Shekula Shabbos. Now, of course, I'm reading a lot into this, but it's all there on the page, right? I've been reading into this, and I'm going to stop this soon because I'm just setting the environment, and then we'll stay more in tune with just the Rebbe's words. But just to let you know kind of where we're going a little bit. Now, beyond Tesvav Kislev, Erev Shabbos then was on Tesvav Kislev, Sheboy Kaimu Siha Rabbi Bishlamuta, which, as the Zohar says, on the 15th of the month, the moon stands in its fullness, right? The full moon. Hashlemus the Chodesh Kislev. So in this particular month of Kislev, the 15th of month is the shlemus, the wholeness, the completion of the month of Kislev. Yisumi Hagama the Moitzi Shabbos, and its conclusion, when it comes to Moitzi Shabbos, Shenimshik Ad Yom Hey Shlishi B'Shabur, it comes out Yom HaShlishi B'Shabur, it comes into the third day of the month. This is true every Shabbos, right? The Shabbos before blesses the first 3 days of the next week, and the Shabbos that's coming up blesses the first 3 days, the last 3 days of the week. So this goes out on Yom HaShlishi B'Shabur, which is, so this Shabbos is blessing 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, over to the 19th of Kislev, which is Chag Geulah. So the Shabbos, the Erev Shabbos is the time we're doing the work. The Shabbos is the Shabbos which radiates into the second half of the month, which is Chag Geulah. This is the liberation of Rabbeinu Hazak and the Alter Rebbe. Chag HaChagim, which the Chassidim call Chag HaChagim, Rosh Hashanah l'Torah Chassidus, the head of the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus. And what's the particular virtue of this? The way the calendar comes out this year that he's speaking. Where there has been established the Kaviyas, the Yom Tov Kislev, the Pan Harishon, where we had the Yom Tov of Kislev was in the first year of Yutis Kislev. Kedivra Rabbeinu Hazaken, as the Alter Rebbe said, because of Hayadua in his known writing, Shegoloso Hoyso Beyem Yutis Kislev, that his Geulah was on Yutis Kislev, Yem Shehukful Ba Kitayv, and it was a Tuesday. Tuesday, Kitayv. 2 times Kitayv. And the Kriya in Sefer Atilim the pasuk Pada b'Shalom. That was what he was reading. Now, Pada Shalom is two things. Shalom is one of the names of God, and it's the a hint to the time of Mashiach when the world will come to its shlemus, to its fullness. So, in many respects, he's positioning us in this particular sikha to be sensitive to that we're in a modality of coming into Shabbos, leaving Choil, leaving the consciousness of Choil, moving into the consciousness of Shabbos, and that Shabbos has a radiating effect into the next few days. Okay. As it says in parentheses, this is part of B'Shalom Nafshi. Shalti Chalukas is Sefer Tilim. When you take the Sefer Tilim is divided into days of the month and also weeks. So if you take it into the days of the week, Shag Pasuk Zer L'Shir D'Yem Shlishi, it's the third day again, the third. And so automatically the Shabbos which is before it on Teshvav Kislev, the Erev Shabbos with Teshvav on Tezayin, and the Erev Shabbos is on Teshvav. Okay. Now, since every detail, every aspect in Torah, and al-achas kama v'kama inyan ki kloli v'ikri b'yom tov Kislev, and how much more so when we're speaking about Yom Tov Kislev, which is Rosh Hashanah l'Torah's Chassidus, every aspect, every detail of Torah, heim b'hashgacha pratos, v'tachlis hadiyuk, and with a complete exactitude. So mistar b'leim, the Rebbe says it's logical to say, there's a svara to say, sheyesh kesher b'shaychus b'neihem, that the inyanim that come together have an intrinsic connection between them. She'abaracha v'nesenes koyach b'yom tov Kislev, that the blessing and the power that comes from Yud Kes Kislev, which comes from the Shabbos before, and after the trouble that we've gone through to prepare for Erev Shabbos, Tesvav Kislev is in Tesvav Kislev, which is the middle of the month, which is exactly the time when Kaima Sihir ad Chodesh Kislev, Bishlemuta, where the moon is full, as we will explain the inyan of the moon, and he's going into some very interesting factoids about the moon as we go on. Now, lest I bore all of you with my own voice, I'm going to give, and as usual for those who haven't been to the shir, our approach here in the shir, which has the bracha of the Rebbe, Esther, whose home is thank you very much, is our hostess tonight, went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gave an Asa about this year in an answer to the Rebbe, that we should ask people who want to read without putting any pressure on anybody. So I've got a nice number of people at the table and a nice number of people out there, and I'm going to ask if anybody out there wants to come off mute and read a little, or anybody around the table. So it gives me an opportunity to wet my whistle, so to speak.
Anybody on Zoom?
Anybody out there? If not, you could think about it, and we'll come around again. Okay.
We have more participants tonight since you put your address down.
We're going to begin. We haven't begun yet. We're going to preface the Rebbe is saying a very wondrous question in relation to Chag Geulah. You notice how he keeps emphasizing it's called Chag Geulah. So we are positioned at this very moment, since we are immersed in this particular sikha at this particular time, in understanding something about Chag Geulah. And there's a wondrous question, he said, regarding Yutas Kislev, Chag HaChagim, sheyesh bo shinui lagabi shar Chagim. It has a difference, and it's distinct from all the other Chagim that we have on our Jewish calendar. Pesach and Sichos, Nekava b'yem chamisha asa b'chodesh, right? Pesach and Sichos are on the 15th day of the month. Pesach b'tesva b'nisan, Sichos b'tesva b'tishrei, sheboy kaima sihor b'shmuta. They happen when the moon is full.
Right.
Yutes Kislev, of course, which is called Chag HaChagim, the Chag of all Chagims is not on the 15th. It's after the 15th, after the moon is diminishing.
Because
When the moon starts waning.
most of the largest holidays are on the 15th.
That's what
It's
he
also
said.
corresponding to Hamnesh Yisrael, which is the first two letters of Hashem's name.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
interesting.
it's an interesting,
Okay.
and it's also, they say that that's when they show us that it's strongest, like the moon that waves.
Well,
when
that's-
it's stronger,
Yes, because Yisrael is compared, we're compared, the
The moon.
Jewish people are compared to the moon. So this is he said, wondrous question. Why do we call the Chag HaChagim a day that doesn't occur, not only doesn't it occur on the day of the other Chagim, but it's as the moon is descending, as the moon is diminishing. And not, it might be nice to say, it's as the moon is increasing, but it isn't. It's on the other side of the moon. Yud Tes Kislev. The Shavuos, nice of the Chag shehakosev le kol HaChag hazeh, even though Scripture doesn't pinpoint the date of Shavuos. The Kami Yomim lechodesh rak b'chamishim la'omer. But what does it say? It's the 50th of the Omer. It's not
It's the only
pinpointed
day,
in
you're
a
right, it's
day.
the only holiday. Which
Nevertheless,
That's right.
Arei ki b'yosef b'yemei hachodesh, it's the way it's fixed in the days of the month. Pamim chamisha, pamim shisha, pamim shiva, 5, 6, or 7, right? Hi b'chatzav harishon shel hachodesh, in the first part of the month. At least it's in the part of the month when, as I said, wouldn't it be nice to, if it's not on the 15th, then let it be at least in the first part of the month when the moon is waxing, not when it's waning.
Shavuos is the only holiday which is not.
So even though it's not on the 15th, it's in the first part. Kishalavana, which is compared to Yisrael, Daimim Lavana, it says that the Jewish people are compared. Umoinim, and we are counted, and we count according to the calendar of the Lavana, and we count as the days are Heleches v'gadlim yom b'yom, as they go and get bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Each day it gets bigger.
Down.
And the other side, we go down. Okay. So, I mean, I have to give a few things away. So, all of history can be seen as Torah has been adding in its extent and its reach throughout the world. It started in a very small place, and it began to spread out with Avram Avinu, and it spread and spread and spread, and it increased and increased and increased, right? Yet, the revelation of the deepest part of Torah, which is Kabbalah, and particularly Kabbalah's Chassidus, is associated not with the waxing, but with the waning, with the diminishing. And the Rebbe is going to make a big deal of this. A big deal.
It's important, more beautiful.
All right. And by the way, all you got people out there, I would really enjoy it if some of you, anyway, if not all of you, would take yourself off of masking your video. The reason I like that is because then I can see, as I can around the table, what's going on in people's faces, which is a clue as to what's going on in people's heads. Okay. And in addition, if you're hearing something that you don't understand or that you feel is important to inject into the context of the class, please do. Okay, so everything else is either in the 15th, full moon, or growing and growing and growing. It's not only that it's not on the 15th, when the moon is getting fuller and fuller and coming to its shlemus, its wholeness. In addition to this, it's in the second half of the month. When the moon is actually diminishing. Yisrael is even more than this. In the Geulah Yud Tes Chanukah, She'enu Purim, it's not like Purim. Shekavyosa b'Yud Daled b'Tes Bo b'Chodesh, right? That's when Purim is coming up, 14th and 15th. Kishikayim Sihur b'Shlemusa, when the moon is full. His Chaltoi v'Roibei, we're speaking about Chanukah. Most of it is b'Yomim Achureinim Shel Chodesh, Mekaf He Kislev, starts from the 25th. And yet, What is Hanukkah all about? It's all about light. So there's something about later time when the darkening is increasing, where there is an extra measure of light. How do we put these things together? How do we understand this? Hanukkah goes from the cup and it goes further. The light diminishes until the moon becomes completely hidden. Okay, so we're going to start a section here in which the Rebbe is going to teach us a little bit about the movement of the sun and the moon. Now, let's just put one thing on the table. That's a factoid that is good to have in your mind. Many people do. The nations are compared to the sun. Yisroel is compared to the moon. Throughout history to date, the nations have been in charge of the world, right? And the Jewish people have had their moments, waxing and waning. So the sun is the big emanator, at least in the natural state of things, before the time we're going to be talking about. In the natural state of this thing, the sun is the mashpia, and the moon is the makabel.
Like Moshe Rabbeinu and Joshua ben Nun.
Yeah. Moshe was the mashpia, and Yeshua, and that was his. But since you brought it on the table, it's good to mention. People, the Talmud discusses why Yeshua. Why Yeshua? There were a lot of candidates. So, but Yeshua was renowned for his shiflus. He was renowned for his bittul. So bittul will become a huge positive force. But now, but I just wanted to put that out there, but we're a little ahead of the story. He's going to explain to us very well and deeply how this works. So Ois Gimel. I think I'll stop now for a minute. Just say, anybody have anything to add or question at this point? It's nice to see these little unmoving, smiling faces. Let's understand first the diminishment of the moon in the second half of the month, in relation to us Jewish people, who count our world, our whole calendar according to the moon, not the sun. And let's preface. Since in the beginning half of the month, the light of the moon is getting bigger and bigger from day to day. And in the second half of the month, it gets less and less as it goes on, the light of the Levanim. So so this is the path increasing, decreasing. So a certain logic should say that when we count the month, so we count as it goes on in the first half of the month, yes, they should go up and up and up. You could think, let the numbers go down again. They go down to reflect the waxing and waning of the moon. We would go from 15 down to 14, etc., back down to Aleph until the moon is dark again. And not only, of course, I'm putting in the word of course, is it not the case that as we get farther and farther into the month that the days don't start diminishing? On the contrary, they get bigger and bigger, even bigger than the day when the moon was full. You ever thought about that?
It's a beautiful romance. It's beautiful.
I mean, never thought.
I never thought about that.
No. Well, wait till you hear.
That's
Well, wait till you hear why.
That's a good.
Wait till you hear why. All right. Sheminyan hayim shalachari tezvav. The counting the number of the day after tezvav. Shabbai nechsar, and he again in parentheses, when it's lessening, v'shleimus the order lavana should be emet tezvav. What's the first one? Tes Zion. 16. Misper Alav Yesemi Misper Tesvo. That's one greater than 15. Ominion Hayoim Sha'acharav. He's now teaching us as we're in kindergarten. Shaboy Nefzer Oidesa, and as we diminish yet another day of light, we increase until we get to 16 and 17. Now we're 2 greater than 15. And so it goes on. Excuse me. Until the last day of the month, when the moon, when the moon is completely hidden, Shehu Chavtes or Lamed, it goes like that. It's the biggest number of all.
And the longest
day. Into such an extent, it even doubles 15.
And the longest day also.
Okay.
I got it. Beautiful work. Got it.
So now we're going to go into another dimension of this. That's nice. That's interesting, right? And one wonders, why is that? Though I never wondered it. Maybe any of you ever wondered it?
Israel becomes the influence like the sun.
Let's see.
Got it. That's beautiful.
The Vadhai Sofa, in addition to the addition, right, but Misper, it gets bigger and bigger as you go on in the Mea Chodesh. Mudgash, there is underscored the greatness of these days is actually hinted at in their numbers. That's and in their hints. The messages are concealed in them. And this is what I thought to block out. I say what he's doing, and I hope you feel the way I do. He's bringing out some amazing things. Each day, he's going to take each day from the 15th on. As the light is diminishing, right? Ledugma, Misper Yud Zion. Yud Zion is 17, Gematria Tov. The light is lessening, and Tov, goodness, is coming into prominence, right? Misper Yud Ches is Chai, life. The light is diminishing, and Chayas is increasing. Misper Yud Tes, Gematria de B'Tov. Yud Tes Gematria B'Tov. Misper Chaf is Yud, Beis, Milyuya. If you fill it up with 2 Yuds, Yud Yud, you get 20, right? Yud Yud. Misper, and then Kuf Aleph. Ach Tev L'Yishrakel. Al Ach. There's only goodness to those. It's not Yisrael. L'Yisrael. There's only good to the Jewish people. Ach. So that's 21. 22. Bach Yevorach Yisrael. In you, God will be blessed. Mr. Kav Gimel, 23. Agamatria the Tuvoi. Mr. Kav Dalet. Visamti Kadkad. And I will put my gem, my sparkling gem, Mishusayach. I will put it and it will shine. Mr. Kav Hey. Ka Sevorchu Espen Israel. So you should bless the children of Israel. Kavav, he doesn't stop. Right? I mean, you could have given examples here. But each one of them, I'm not stopping on every one of them. When you chazer this over, look back and see, each one of them has a little different inyan that it brings out. I mean, we'll bring out one. Kavav, Mr. Shem HaMafurish Havaya. 26 is the express name of Shem Havaya, right? Gematria is Zach. And Kav Zion is purity, Zach, clean.
Like Shem and Zach.
Yeah, like Shem and Zach. Kav Ches, 28, Misper Koyach. Less light, and we're in Koyach. We're in power, totally empowered. Kav Tes, Yemei Chodesh, 29 days of the month. Shlishim Chodesh Molek, and that's when the month is
from the time of the giving of the Torah in that part of the month onwards? So is this from the time that we receive the Torah, our koach increases? Is that what we say?
Now you're going to see what he does with this.
It's an interesting thought.
What he does with this. Okay, so far so good. I think this was simple and hopefully interesting. The Talmud of it. Now there's a reason for this. This is Torah. This is not physics. This is not some conventional understanding. This is Torah. Since the Torah tells us we always have to be going up in holiness, so somehow this degradation in light and and juxtaposed with all the wonderful things that it is somehow going up in Kodesh, not going down.
Because we get deeper once we have the Torah.
You could speculate.
Okay, I'm not speculating.
Keep your speculation to yourself. Not because I'm not that interested, but I'd like to hear, let's just hear what the Rebbe tells us. Okay, so we have to be Mylin B'Kodesh, right? And in fact, the part it says, and Ein Maridin, we don't go down in Kodesh. Shehu B'Tokfei B'Kol Yemei HaKodesh. So there's a holiness, a Kodesh that has to be expressed in every day of the month. Gam B'Chatzav B'Sheni Shel HaKodesh, even in the second half of the month, L'Achanei Milah B'Shleim Shel Levana, after the moon is full. After the moon is full and increases. So the holiness has to increase as the light is decreasing. So through as in the light of what we've just said, the light of what the Rebbe said, we're going to understand the inyan of miyat halavana, the diminishing of the moon, b'chatzav hasheni, in the second half of the month, shel chodesh. That after its fullness, it diminishes day from day. By the way, this is what we call a mugadika sicha, meaning this is a sicha that the Rebbe has gone over. So every word in it. When the Rebbe was muga sichas, not only did he strike and make changes, but he added sometimes whole things. Now I can't tell you, I haven't compared there is a non-mugadika sicha as well online, which you can compare. But I'm just bringing out to say that everything that the Rebbe is saying, every word that's here, he especially made sure was here. Okay.
Beautiful, it relates to after the giving of the Torah. So that's beautiful. It's a little bit deeper.
So let's explain this, right? What's the Teichen Inyan? What is the Inyan of Miyat HaLevana, the diminishing of the Levana? Excuse me.
It's not really diminishing, obviously.
The light is the moon is going to stay the same.
It never had its own light.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
It can't diminish what's not already there.
It has its whole.
I'm
not going to go ahead of the
Once we got
story.
the Torah, we became the primary light,
But you're going to be
in a way.
hopefully pleasantly surprised about this notion that the moon has no light. Okay.
It will in the end have its own light, though.
So what we're going to talk here is about the secret of darkness being deeper than light. Darkness being deeper than light. We see this, one place that we see it in the Bracha after Borachel. We say, Yetzer Ora Borech Heshech. He formed light and he created darkness. In the order of worlds, which is higher, Yetzirah or Bria? Bria. So Yetzer refers to the world of Yetzirah. Light is from the world of Yetzirah. Darkness is from the world of Bria, which is higher, deeper. So Levana v'chama hem makabel mashpia. Now the way we look at things today, the sun is the mashpia and the moon is the makabel. Shavana, in fact, it says in the Zohar, Leislom lemegarmo klum. The moon has nothing on her own. That's what it says. Umakabel is oire me'achama. And it receives from the sun. And the way of the moon's hashpah is at the beginning of the month, it receives only a little bit of light. That's what we call moilid. That's the moilid when we bench the moon. And it's just a nakuda, just a point. And from day after day, it goes bigger and bigger. Or regarding the light, that it receives from the sun. Until nismale, until it fills. The Sichos shel halavana, and you have the entire brightness of the moon.
Sichos?
Sichos means the orb. Mismale, of the orb of the moon. It's an orb, a disc. Disc.
Right.
So mismale discus shall, probably Greek or Latin. There's a lot of words like that. Okay, until it becomes full. And then the Zohar says, Kaima Sihura Bishlamuta. Then the moon fills up in its wholeness, its shlemus. You know how much it's going to receive from the sun. Avo, however, as long as it's in the state of filling up, it's in a state of receiver, right? That's how it fills up. And as long as that's true, as long as the moon is in a state of receiving, the moon hasn't reached its fullness. So he's getting now into an area that is not normally understood. When we say the moon, we say it's a full moon. He's saying no, it's not. It's because why? It's full of being a makabel, but it hasn't yet come to its fullness. That's going to go on the Jewish people, and it's going to go particularly on the feminine aspect. Yeah. Because in the relationship between Hashem and the Jewish people, we are the bride, and he's the groom. So this will get to the ascendancy of womanhood as we go further. Because, and this is, this is, I think you were saying, the disk of the moon is always the same size. The appearance of light is what's changing.
Right.
But that's only from the perspective of the moon being a makabel. It's receiving a lot or it's not receiving a lot. So that isn't kaima levana b'shlemuta. That isn't the moon being in a state of fullness. Right? You get it? Does everybody get this? We call it the full moon. And it is a full moon, but it's not the fullness of moonness. It's not the fullness of moonness.
The fullness of moonness is not to do with.
It's not the fullness of moonness is not being a makabel,
Right.
And will be a mashpia.
Right.
Okay, well, this is one of the this is one of the major things that the Rebbe innovated. There are three big tenuas, big movements in the development of Torah. Unfortunately, four. Well, three. Rabbi Ginsburg speaks about the fourth, but I'm not going to speak about that at this point. I don't remember the second. The first big deal in what happened that changed a lot is that the Torah was written down.
Mm-hmm.
The Torah was given. It was given in speech, and then it was written down. Right. The third thing was something that occurred really in our own times, in the time of the Rebbe, which is and you'll find a lot in the Gemara about women not learning Torah. The Rebbe was a proponent, not only of women learning Torah, and I only say that not only because it hadn't been on the table in the first place, and people thought it wasn't.
Well, there was Sarah Schneer.
There were a few, but the halachas always spoke about a woman is obligated to learn those pieces of Torah which are shaykh to her life, but not the wholeness of Torah, right? Not the wholeness of Torah. And the Rebbe went further in the 80s, not only that group of people who had been sort of bounded and cut off from the whole Torah, but all the non-Jews as well should now learn the Torah. Learn the Torah, meaning the essence of the Torah. And the reason, of course, because the times they were changing. The Sheva Mitzvahs, but the Sheva Mitzvahs, I'm not going to go into a discussion of the Sheva Mitzvahs, that's for another time. But the Sheva Mitzvahs are based on the same fundament that our mitzvahs are, which is Hashem Echad. So the Rebbe was Mechadish in many Sichos in the 80s, before the 90s, that it's incumbent upon us to teach Chassidus to non-Jews, because they have to know God.
That's also the meaning of a just Gentile, right? I heard someone use that expression.
Okay, well that's just Gentile, right?
Just Gentile.
But this is a category. Please, I don't want to get on a tangent. Just to say that there were various tenuas, various movements in the development of Torah, and writing it down, bringing it in its fullness to women, and bringing it in fullness to mankind. And so the fullness is not just that we reflect, that the moon is reflected. He's beginning to tell us that isn't the shlemute of the moon. So ein zeh tachlis shleimus halavana, that the moon is a makabel, is not the fullness. This is the old macho relationship to women, right? Women should just receive, right? I mean, that's arcane in our time. It was always arcane, but it really became arcane really from the
Arcane or archaic? Which one?
Arcane.
what's the
What's
difference? That's
arcane?
interesting. Arcane came out of my mouth. I don't really know.
Arcane is when
But
it's-
Arcane
archaic is
old,
okay.
outdated. Arcane is old and outdated. It's not like physical implication.
All right.
Arcane is old and outdated. Rabbi, but how
Stop
do
with
we
just a
apply-
minute because
how do we apply the
wait, please,
acceptance?
because someone out there has something to say. Did someone say something? I heard a voice. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to get into arcane. It's old. It's out of style. It's not the
If you look
truth.
at the giver and the receiver and the relationship between a husband and wife and the fact that the Torah was given, I mean, the concept of a mekubal, a giver and a receiver is not clear, but isn't it part of Torah and part of
Mashpia
I mean, the
Makabal
male
are
and the female
essential.
signs? I mean, and it doesn't mean one is delegated, it just means that there's a certain intimacy that's the relationship between a giver and a receiver.
Yes, but we're making a point here. There's a Makabal and a Mashpia, right?
Like a parental.
The moon has been a Mashpia, has been a Makabal, right?
That's
Right.
not right.
That's not its shlemus, to be a Makabal. That's the point, the only point we're making. This is his words. Because it's not the fullness of the moon. It's not the full, it's not meant to be like the moon, like the sun. It's not meant to be a man. It's a woman. It's Yisroel is not like the other nations, but, big but, we're not just meant to receive. In fact, it says about the future in Yeshayahu that the light of the moon will be like the light of the sun.
Why do you shake your head no less?
I'm just thinking like the implications of this are like so it's bigger than just, I mean, the moon is also very much compared to women, right?
Yeah.
We talk about how like we're in progressive times where whatever, the feminist movement, all of that, things that have been also misconstrued have gone off to the other side, but like
The macho woman.
there's so many
Macho woman.
implications of this also with just
That would be that would be a total reasonable but misunderstanding of what it would mean
right.
that the moon should become a mashpia. That would be that he would come like the sun and become like a macho guy. And that's what happened. That's what happened actually in the 60s with women's lib, all about women becoming CEOs and etc. But go ahead.
Right. I was just thinking, like, if a woman would become like a man, what would happen with children? Like, you can't do that. So
What's wrong with the woman being the CEO? I don't think that's.
No.
That's not the point.
That wasn't the point. What he
The
was
point is that she shouldn't. There's a powerful femininity, not a transformation of a feminine
To masculine. That's. I understand what you're saying.
right.
But what you're saying, the implication is they both develop until they become one.
Well, let's finish your thought.
And then on top of that, with Yisrael being compared to the moon, this goes into now what the Rebbe's like, basically what the Rebbe did with sending everybody out and being a light onto the nations instead of just being like,
Yeah.
the Jewish people who are Kadesh and like have to be private and hidden and nobody knows anything about us and we were secretive people. All of a sudden now, like everybody knows more about our religion. There are documentaries now that are out there. Like there's just so much more information.
It's brought in Chassidus.
Childhood, and I don't know why.
It's brought in Chassidus a little drush on the word Yisrael, and some of you, I'm sure, have seen it. Yosha Keo. That Yosha means straight. We are meant to be a people who straighten the world out to see the Kale, the godliness and everything, but also we're meant to be Yosha. We're meant to be straight, strong, and exude something which we call Kale, godliness in the world.
That's a royalty.
So that's not the Levana we're used to. The Levana that's owes its whole reality to being to some dependency on the sun.
Also that fear. The
Yeah, the fear
that
is
we
gone.
had,
Yeah,
that
good.
waning, which is part of that darkness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also is an unknown, a fear, which is like what we've been
Right.
in. The Jewish people have been afraid for such a long time. We've been persecuted. Like we're now at a different place. We're shedding all of that and stepping into our own light, and not coming from a place of victimhood, and not coming from a place of like we were battered and torn
Right.
for many years. Now we're like it's a
So
completely
what?
different era of the Jewish people. Also,
It's a very era of a different people,
That's where we're headed.
and it's a different era for women.
A lot of
Right? Are we
self-work.
seeing in front of our face today? right? The notion of women, in a different
Right.
mode. It's a very different modality because I've observed the 60s. I was there. It's a different modality, but it's the same idea. We're coming into our force, our strength,
Right.
our ability to be much being.
Mhm.
That will be in the day when the light of the sun will be like the light of the moon, which, by the way, was the way it was before the fall, before the Itzadas. Shnei ma'oris hagadolim, right? Shahayu shnei ha'ma'oris hagadolim. Two great lights.
And also Adam and Chava were equals.
Adam and Chava.
I think it's made reference to the two great
Okay,
lights.
weiter. V'yesh leimer. One can say, and we're open to comments from the field, if anybody wants to. And I hope you're picking up the comments going on here.
Rabbi's talking about something-
All right, so Jonathan, we're going to move on.
You're talking metaphysically much
Right
deeper,
now.
right? About the opposites.
Let's go on.
Can I
Yesh
read?
leimer.
Can I read?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe if I start, then somebody else will.
Okay.
Maybe it'll open the field. Okay, V'yesh lemer habir b'zeh. The bana b'chama.
Where are you?
Daled, no? Where are we? We're hey?
I think.
We're almost in hay.
We're almost in here. Sorry, okay.
We're on the bottom of the page.
The
Yesh
Yesh leimer?
leimer. That Yesh
Right.
leimer.
Which yesh lemer? Oh,
Right hand
okay.
column.
V'yesh lemer shenismale ar halavana shemekabelas mehachama.
So when the moon is full, when the moon comes into its fullness, the light of the Levana, right, which we are calling normally our full moon, when it's receiving from the sun.
Nasi shlemis malias yeser shalavana hi kimay hachama.
So the real fullness of the moon is not only that it becomes full of light, but it comes into its shlemus, meaning that the moon is full from the light of the sun, but also it becomes like the sun.
The interesting thing is that even during this time, the moon is shining during the day. We just don't see it,
Sure.
but it's shining.
I just wanted to mention, because you brought that up, and I'm not going to go into it. There are places that I've learned in Ayin Beis where the Rebbe Rashav tells us that the moon has a light of its own. And
But I
We're
think
not
it's
aware.
overshadowed by the light. Of
but
the
it
sun.
has a light.
It's like-
It is a source of light. You're not going to, for instance, in this mushal that we have going here about woman, you have to say that the woman has a light of her own, right? So the moon has a light of her own. But that's deeper or more fragmented than we need to be. But just let me finish the sentence. But just make sure we have his thought. So the real, that's a shleimus nihilus yoser. There's a greater fullness to the moon than the full moon who's a receiver. And that greater fullness is that the moon becomes like the sun. Go ahead.
I wonder, when we were given the Torah on Shavuos, previously our analogies to the moon waxing and becoming stronger, by analogy to Israel becomes stronger, to a full moon essence, has a physical representation. So I'm wondering if the remnants here, and maybe the Rebbe talked about it, is the fact that once we were given the Torah, it became deeper than the physical analogies to the weighing and the waxing of the moon, because we had an independent light on our own once we were joined with the Torah. So it wasn't so much related to those physical examples, like the sun and the moon, one being the mashpia, one the
Well, it's
Mushka.
true.
So theoretically, once we were given the Torah, it was much deeper than those physical realities, or the analogy to the physical realities.
Once
And that created a metaphor, that created a metamorphosis.
Sure. Well, that started this idea. When we received Torah, right? We were Makabel Torah. We now have the Torah, and Torah is called light. So we received, and then from that moment on, had a light to beam out onto the nations.
No longer applied to
The
us.
point is that this beaming light is getting stronger and stronger and broader and
Even
broader
though physically may seem
until
like
it
it's waning.
reaches some critical mass, which we'll speak about as we get further.
Here we go.
It seems that the sun and the moon were created equal, but then the moon was diminished. But
Right.
at the same time, it's also getting a power that it could be as equal as the sun,
All right.
which is a power
Hold that
the
thought.
sun didn't get.
It's a good thought. It's a right thought. Hold it, because I think it will be illuminated for you and for all of us as we get a
Good pun,
little bit,
illuminated.
few more paragraphs.
What is that? The heat?
V'hoy-
Bahaya?
Yeah, v'hoya.
Bahaya ar halavana ka ar hachama.
Al yedei.
Al yedei his galas darga nalis yeser mishneina.
Okay, so stop. What he just said. You heard what he said? Anybody heard what he just said? That the light of the sun is going to become like the light of the moon will become light of the sun through the revelation of a higher level than both of them.
Mhm.
Okay. Shinasis.
I know this is going to be a crazy question, You don't have to answer
Maybe
this,
finish
don't
the
think so?
sentence.
Okay.
What's the higher level than both of them? The moon will become
Now says Kesar Echad L'Shnehem.
a crown to both of them. The moon will actually be on a higher level. As it says about the future, which is now, that Isha Seveves Gavra, the woman surrounds the man. And there are many ways to take
Like
it,
7
but the
times.
woman is, well, that's in the right. Well, that's a very good point. We see that in the marriage ceremony.
Yes.
The woman encompasses
7 times.
the man, totally
Yes,
encompasses the
7
man,
times.
right? And transcends the man and becomes the kesser to the
Magic
man,
word 7.
right? So the moon not only becomes equal the way it was at the beginning. Remember, redemption, the redemption that we are in, the process of redemption that we're in, is to bring about a higher level of consciousness than existed back before the Eitzadas Toivara, when there was also a state of total God consciousness. But this revelation, since it in a short frame, short word, because you've heard this before, there's an advantage of light which comes from darkness. So the thousands of years of the waxing and waning.
Can I expound on that a little bit?
Huh?
Yeah, you look like you want to say.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Wait a minute. You hold that question just a minute because she was
I
about to
wanna
expound, but hold it.
Because it's, yes, the waxing and waning, and especially because we are the reincarnations of the Dur that left Mitzrayim. And what happened there with Mitzrayim is the same thing there. Like the men were despondent and the women had to stand up and they had to fool their husbands into like being with them and all of that. Like, and there's so many parallels to what's happening now also. It's like the same, there's
Right.
a
They
schism
won't
there.
make up for their husbands. See, but that's what
Yetzias
people-
Mitzrayim, which is Yetzias HaMetzorim, going out
Sorry.
from all the bondages and the constraints and the darkness of the world hiding godliness, was b'schus Hanashim, was through the schus of the women. Okay. Someone else had something to say?
Yes.
Go.
So when we're talking about surrounding, that when the moon, it doesn't just become a keser, but it also surrounds. So it's not just a keser, but it's also a makif.
It's a makif. They're the same. Yes.
Okay.
Makif and Kesser are the same in the language of Chassidus. And it's just one, maybe 30 seconds, because the king or queen comes into his or her shlemus only when she's crowned, right? So that's the coronation day. That's the day that the king or queen now can be mashpia to all of the kingdom. And she does it not by engaging physically with the kingdom, but by her power, that's this transcendent power that hovers over and penetrates the entire kingdom. So that's the notion of Kesser. It's a makif in the sense that it's surrounding and it's penetrating every detail of reality, the reality in the Moshiach being the empire. So that's, yes, you're totally right. Kesser is makif.
Thank you.
But again, I'm trying to say, and emphasizing, makif doesn't mean hovery. Makif means totally encompassing, transcending, and
Permeating.
permeating. Yes. And that's the moon in its fullness. Where did you finish the paragraph?
Yeah.
V'shleim zu?
V'shlemus zu misbatis. What is that word?
Yeah, is articulated, is the real word, is
Biyaches
expressed.
shebein halavana lachama.
Shebeyacha, yeah.
Biyaches, yeah.
In relation
Biyaches
to,
shebein halavana lachama b'chatzav hasheni shel hachodesh k'dekama.
and this, we'll call it for lack of a, this supremacy, right, is that, he didn't use the word, she becomes a higher level than both of them. Now here comes the real twist. This is expressed most particularly in the waning of the moon, not the waxing of the moon.
What's expressed in the way?
That I'm going to read the Rebbe's words, that the revelation of a level which is nihilus yaisim mishnehem, the revelation of the moon at a level which is higher than both of them,
It's in the
where
waxing
she
and the-
becomes
Got it.
the kesser to everything,
Because it's
is expressed particularly in the second half of the month,
when
not
it's
the
waning,
first.
Not when it's waxing.
So here we
Not
go.
waxing, waning. Because
Here we're
it's
going to
master.
understand something about
Master.
darkness and helam and concealment.
Concealment, master.
And there's two kinds of concealment. You want to keep reading?
I'll keep.
Anybody?
Would
Would
you
you
I
like-
think that it
Great,
would be
I love
nice
it.
if
It'd
others
Be
would
nice.
read.
Anybody else? Look, there's a lot of people here. Anybody else like to read?
I can read.
I'll try to read. Oh,
Okay, you go, please.
Who said first? I don't know.
That's right.
Me, it's Elisheva.
Okay, go. Ogir hadavon.
סיבת השינוי בין חציו הראשון של החודש,
So the cause of the difference between the first half of the month, yeah,
שמיום ליום מוסיף והולך אור הלבנה,
which in the
לחציו
first,
השני,
yeah, I'm just going to translate though, because not everyone can just
She has a
follow
good
your
accent,
Hebrew.
too. It's pretty good Hebrew.
Yeah. That in the first half of the month, the days are increasing and getting bigger and bigger, and the moon is getting bigger.
לחציו השני של החודש,
Yeah, and the difference between that and the second half of the month,
שמיום ליום פוחת והולך אור הלבנה.
in which the moon diminishes and becomes less and less. So what's the difference between the first half and the second half?
היא מפני שבחציו הראשון של החודש, הולכת ומתרחקת הלבנה מהחמה.
So, and this is
The
something
moon
to
moves
think about.
farther away from the sun.
Because the moon moves in the first half of the month. So let's see, there's my finger here. This is the sun, right? And this is the moon. So as the moon moves farther away from the sun, more surface area of the moon gets exposed, as a result of which the light becomes bigger. So here you go.
Interesting paradox.
More light, farther away.
Farther away. Interesting paradox.
And on the other hand,
I don't understand.
huh?
Is this a new thing that the moon moves back and forth, closer and farther to the...
That's an interesting question itself. No, that's a very interesting question. I don't have the answer to that.
The rabbi's saying that
Well, she asked the question. Let me at least address the question. I can't answer. I don't know if it's a new thing, Elisheva. It's apparently a physical fact, which I certainly didn't know and saw for the first time here in the Sicha. So I'm just accepting it, and I think this is the physical fact, according to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe, in addition to being everything else, was quite a student of physics. You know the story about the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, when he was 12 years old, gave a lecture in Kiddush Levana to all the great Chassidim and Gedolim, and they all, in the languages, they all fell on their face. He knew more about the physical cosmos than any of them did. So I'm taking it just at face value. But at face value, you could understand it. If you have a light source, the farther away you move from it, the spread of the light gets bigger. And when you come teeny and close to it, it gets very like a pinpoint. But that's what he's saying.
From our perspective, if we use our imagination and our mind's eye.
So it gives us a concept here. Closeness is distance is more light than closeness. Closeness is less light. And he'll explain it in terms of a mushal in a
That's not
minute.
necessarily the way. Okay, farther away means a more expanse of light, but more dim. Closer.
Yeah, but more expanse. That's all we're talking.
Okay, so that's
There's
something
more
it's
surface area of the moon.
right,
lit
that
up.
doesn't mean it's as bright.
You're right, but he's not going to that. He's not.
Okay.
Forget brightness, just how much light do you see? Okay. And then you'll come back, as he says, when he'll say the mushal, it'll be interesting. Go ahead.
וככל שמתרחקת מהחמה מיום ליום, הולך וגדל אורה.
So the farther it gets in distance from the sun, from day to day, the light gets bigger and bigger. Not necessarily brighter and brighter, bigger and bigger. Okay.
ובחציו השני הולכת ומתקרבת אל החמה.
And in the second half of the month, the moon is actually coming closer to the sun.
וככל שמתקרבת יותר אל החמה, מיום ליום הולך ומתמעט אורה.
And the closer the moon gets to the sun, the more diminished and small is its light.
I think that's the problem with the same problem.
Okay,
That's why
go.
we look at it. From a human
I mean,
perspective,
first of all,
not necessarily physics.
Is there anyone who can't see that? I mean, just see that physically.
From our perspective, yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's physically true. It's just the way we look at it.
The
in
Rebbe
mind's
is
eye.
saying it, so I'm just taking it
Okay,
plain.
I'll
Let's
give you a
not
point, okay.
go
You're
there.
basically just saying that the closer the moon gets to the sun, the less light the moon has of its own.
Because when we look at it, we see the moon when it's farther away, it encompasses the entire moon from our histaklut. So it doesn't necessarily, so even though the light is, so we see this in its entirety from our perspective. Because the smaller the moon becomes in the distance, so the more the sun.
Yeah, I think
engulfs
it's a simple point.
Yeah.
Whether you understand it or the physics of it or not is another story.
it from our
But it's a
perspective.
simple point. That as it gets closer, there's less surface area exposed, so it diminishes until it gets so close that from our perspective, there's no light. So, but the point is, the mashal, the nimshal, is closer is darker, and farther away is lighter.
You don't get the
So
whole
now let's
picture.
go see what we're going to do with
You
it.
don't get the whole picture.
Let's see what we're going to do with it. Elisha, are you going to continue?
Sure. וטעם הדבר,
So the reason for this is
לפי שהיחס שבין המשפיע חמה והמקבל לבנה, הוא באופן שכאשר המקבל הוא בקירוב אל המשפיע.
okay, stop. So the relationship between a mashbia, one who gives out, which is the sun, excuse me, and a receiver, which is the moon, is in such a way, such a manner, that when the receiver is close to the mashpia, the receiver isn't able to be mashpia so much light. Ulahoyer. Why? Parentheses. Mitzad.
מצד הביטול שלו לקבל ההשפעה.
Because there's a bittul, a nullification to receiving the hashpah. There's just not as much area.
This is why women need time to themselves.
Okay, go ahead, keep going.
וככל שמתרחק מן המשפיע, מתחיל גם הוא להשפיע ולהאיר. האור שמקבל מהמשפיע.
The farther away this thing is, in this case it's the moon, from the mashpia, that then begins the mashpia can really give more out. Okay, so there's more light given out by the receiver from the mashpia.
When it wanes instead of when it waxes.
Oh, wait, it's 9:35.
It's 9:35. Maybe let's try to at least finish. We'll finish hopefully this piece. V'yesh lemar. You want to continue or someone else?
Someone else could continue.
Any other volunteer out there? You're going to throw it back at me?
I could continue if you want me to.
Okay, who's the me too?
Somebody else wanted to, when I called out.
I
somebody
could
else-
read, but I'm not exactly sure where we are right now.
We're at the exact top of page 158.
Okay,
V'yesh
on the
lemar.
left. Okay,
On the screen.
please correct me if. Okay,
Yeah.
v'yesh lomar shehakiruv dehalavana el hachama bechatzav hasheni shel hachodesh.
So one can
Hoorah.
say that the closeness of the moon to the sun in the second half of the month, where it's closer, is low.
Okay. Hu rak litzarech hitchadshus hayichud deshimsha.
Is not only for the necessity of kind of renewing the unity between the sun and the moon, the mashpia and the makabel,
Behamole dehachodesh. And I'm not sure what that is.
in the birth that comes afterwards. You might say, sort of like think of an intimate relationship. The closeness is for the sake of having a child, the sake of a birth. So he's saying, yeah, that's going on. But he's saying, one could say that the closeness of the sun to the moon is not only for the sake of renewing their intimate relationship and that the moon should be reborn, so to speak, and that there should be a birth of the chodesh of the month which is after this. And then in the parentheses, al yedei, through,
Al yedei hamiut miyom liyom.
which through the decreasing from day to day, which is a shehu inyan, which exemplifies what? It exemplifies
Habitol dehamekabel.
the nullification of the receiver to the mashpia.
Ki yivkod moshva.
Yes, that she's appointed to and becomes part of what of the one who's giving off. Kedei, in order
Sheyuchal lekabel hashpa'a na'alis yoser mehamashpia.
in order to get sort of renewed, right? It comes close in order to get renewed, in order that she'll have more light, a greater shefa, a greater flow, and which comes from the mashpia. It says upakadato. Upakadato is appointment or a meeting place.
Would you, sorry to interrupt, but would you consider this, let's say, on a very, very practical term, containment?
Containment. You mean the moon is being contained when it comes?
But it's because of the sun. Like the sun is practicing. Like I was looking into a lot of like the male female dynamic.
Figure that, and the male's
when it-
restricting the female, right?
What,
Instead of
sorry?
loving- And the male's restricting the female from progressing
No,
instead
no,
of
no,
being
no, no.
complement.
Containment is actually a positive thing where it's when it's allowing, because of all the things that a man would do, it would allow the woman to shine. Meaning, I'll get, we can talk after the class. I'll show you what
Okay.
it is actually.
In any
Sorry.
case, he's saying it isn't only for that. This coming close is not only for that,
Right.
and not even in the main for that. After the dash, you see where you are? I think it's Sarah, right? Elagam, but do you see where you are? All right, let me take it over. We'll do, because we'll get to the end of the paragraph. So this closeness is not just for renewal. You could say that, right? Renewal. Intimacy for the sake of renewal and for rebirth, right? Elagam, but also, and he says, ubeikar, the main thing, this kiruv is coming close of the moon to the sun, where the light is diminished, in a mushal, is coming close to the etzem, the essence.
Essence.
So here introduces a very important
husband and wife
new
before they met.
idea. Yeah, like when you come very close, when you essence to essence, right? And you come to a close, not not in the moment of passion, but in the moment of just clinging to each other, essence to essence, right? Where there's no action, there's no passion, there's no burst of flame. It's quiet. And in our mushal, we would call it darkness. That's the darkness in the moon. And that's the main thing. That's the main thing. The moon coming close to the sun, which creates darkness from our perspective, is a kiruv leha etzem, is coming to etzem. So the moon, the feminine, the receiver normally, is coming to close to the essence, shelamayla gam ha'or derechama, which is even higher than the sun. Remember what we said earlier? That in this time that we're in, that the Rebbe will be making explicit later,
Beautiful mushroom.
the moon is even higher than the sun, right?
Right.
The moon is a crown to the sun, even higher than the sun. So how you get higher than the sun? Well, you can look at the sun in two ways. Well, we've been looking at the sun as an effuser of light. And you could look at God that way, as an effuser of light. The effusions of light are what we call God's creations and his spheros. But he, like us, has an essence that's deeper than that and deeper than any expression. And it's the same in ourselves. We have a deep place in ourselves that never gets expressed. We've talked about this before, Freud's iceberg, where the deep level of consciousness is called the unconscious. The more conscious is called the pre-conscious. And what you see, the light, is the conscious. Essence is dark, but essence is deep. So when the moon comes close to the sun and isn't shining, the moon is achieving a probe into the essence of the sun. That's what he's saying.
Is that related to a woman having capacity to bear children?
I don't know whether that has, I don't know. Just
Just
please,
crown to the.
Jonathan, I ask you, just hold these, just get that and think about that. That this kiruv of the moon to the sun is kiruv leha etzem, and in etzem, there's lamayla gamin ha'or derechama. It's higher than any effusion of light, much, much deeper. It's keser echad l'shneihem. That's when they become one crown to both of them, essence to essence. Now I'm going to finish this. Shakirav l'dagazu, the closeness of this level, misvata b'miyat ha'or, is expressed in the diminishment of the light, not in the flashy effusion of the light. This is the real source of modesty, the real source of sneers, etzem. V'rak ha'ora me'ha'etzem is galab ha'or. And it's just a radiation. When you see a lot of light, you're seeing only a ha'ora, only a ray, a radiation, a beam that comes from an etzem. V'lafein, therefore, miyat ha'or, miyayim liyayim, the diminishment of the light of the moon from day to day, Moira, it shows that shemiyim liyim, day to day, time to time, year to year, millennia after millennia, one millennium after another, day after day. The moon is coming, is hoylech begadol hakirav. The closeness is getting greater. The closeness is getting better, and it's a kirav le'etzem. It's a kirav to, it's a closeness to the essence, shelamayla mehaor, which is higher than the light. And this is expressed in the language of Chassidus, helam shelamayla megillah. There's two kinds of helam. Helam meaning concealment. There's or mina, there's or which is magala mina helam, light which is revealed from the helam. And then there's what's called helam atzmi, the essential concealment from which the dark, I don't know if this is really true, but people use it a lot. The black matter, the black holes, which to my understanding, if someone could elaborate more, is supposedly understood as a condensation of light that becomes so condensed that it doesn't escape from there. That's called a black hole.
You know, the gravity
It's a
is
black
so
hole.
intense.
It's so intense. That's how they say it. The gravity is so intense that the gravity is so intense. Gravity is a force that it works on everything. Nobody really understands it. I've read enough science to know that. But it compresses everything into a deep single essence, which is deeper than, higher than revelation. That's called, in the language of Kabbalah and Chassidus, helam ha'atzmi, the essential concealment. She'al yedei zeh, and it's through its contact, the moon's contact with the helam ha'atzmi, or as he says, a helam shelamayla megillah, a helam which is deeper than revelation. Through this, nasus halavona kamei achama, the moon becomes like the sun, and even more than the sun, keser, becomes a keser echad l'shneihem, a crown to both of them.
That's an example of a woman when she's unified with her husband, she carries a child, the husband can't. So it says there's more than just the second half, but there's more. She's able to carry their life.
I don't know about that.
But it says that my mom.
I mean, I don't know. We're talking about here of a depth of consciousness that reaches higher than any expression. And that's what's meant by Keser Echad L'Shneihem. They become unified at the level of Keser, which, as Eliza or somebody else said, is higher than expression. So the moon has reached, so what we have from this one little piece, that the moon, Nasib Shlimuta, as the Zohar says, when the moon comes into its fullness, and the moon will be like the sun, it doesn't mean there'll be two suns shining. It means that there will be a union at the level of essence, and essence of God will be revealed. And that's the time that we are in, as we will speak about next week.
The moon had to have that period of decline, diminishment, in order for this to happen.
Well, that's what it is. The waxing and the waning has been going on all over time.
Right.
The waxing and the waning. We've been shining. We've not been this, and we have
the eventual crown that the moon will receive.
I mean, you're absolutely right. This is not something new, waxing and waning. This has been going on forever. But the permanence or the predominance of the expression of etzem, as opposed to the expression of just rays of light, is something that's new.
Right.
We're reaching a period in time where the essence of things is coming forth, more than just the radiation. We're beginning, and this he'll talk about later, the whole notion of birurim, as the world got settled and settled through Torah and Torah, through rectification and through repair, etc., etc. And eventually we'll come to the piece. So what is different about this time? What is different? We're not in that time anymore. We're in a time when, at the time of Atzmus, is at the tip of our fingers. How that is and etc. needs to be talked about. But that's where we are. All right, so this is, as I say, I have no idea how long this is going to continue. It's an eight pages. What do we do? 3 pages. But we're going to do this because this is one of a handful of Sichos that everybody in the world heard about in 1991 and 1992, and nobody really understood. And I don't know that we're going to come away from it with a full understanding either, but at least we'll get the real thing and go into it as much as we possibly can. That's all. So let me say good night till we meet again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Rabbi Kamen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.